Hi Preschool 2 parents, it's Teacher Annette. Today I'm going to be talking about the learning activity for the language and communication domain for Friday week 5. This activity is the same for both the younger and the older preschoolers again, and it's all about encouraging cognitive functions and facilitating children's learning. So this activity is encourage the child to ask questions. Asking questions demonstrates the child's curiosity and areas of interest and also leads to gaining knowledge. Whenever possible, help the child discover where and how to find the answers for themselves. So it seems pretty straightforward, but you might be wondering, how do I encourage my child to ask questions and how do I help them to find the answers on their own? So it's not really a case of, trying to draw the questions out of your child by saying something like, so what are your questions about this? Or, ask me something about it. I mean, you can use that, but generally, your child is going to naturally ask questions on their own. And the key to encouraging that is just to not, shut them down. So think of how many times that you, or maybe someone you know, or someone that you've seen in public has kind of just brushed aside their child asking them questions, regardless of what it's about. So saying something like, not now, or I don't know, or, anything dismissive like that. There are times when you definitely don't have the energy to engage in the conversation, or, you're not able to take your focus off of whatever you're doing at the moment. It's a good idea, I think, to start practicing saying something along the lines of, well, why don't you ask me again when I'm done and we can see if we can find the answer together, or something like, I'm not able to help you right now, but I will as soon as I have a moment, because I think that's a good question. And, even if you don't know the answer to something, you don't have to just say, I don't know, and leave it at that. You can say something like, you know what, I don't know, but we can learn about it together. You can make a later date for you guys to sit down together and do some research on whatever the question is. A common one is, of course, why is the sky blue? That's, I know it's something I know, but I don't know how to put into child-friendly terminology. So that's something that I would want to be like, you know what, that's a good question. Let's see if we can figure it out. And, saying things like, that's such a good question, or, you know what, I'm so glad that you decided to ask me and to try and learn about it. It's just those little things that you can say to encourage exploration and question asking. And when it comes to, encouraging your child to find the answers on their own, you might want to ask them to brainstorm ideas about how they can learn what it is they want to know. So maybe they're asking, how does a caterpillar turn into a butterfly? Well, you can ask them, that's a good question. So maybe your child is asking, how does a caterpillar turn into a butterfly? And you might say something like, that's a really good question. How can you find out that answer? And of course, they might say something like, well, I'm asking you. But you really want to encourage them to try and do their own investigation. That doesn't mean that you have to let them just take it by themselves, do it alone. I mean, you can definitely be a part of it, like a backseat passenger, or even a, front seat passenger, I suppose. And just by changing it from you to we, it really does make that difference. So how can we find out the answer to that? How do you think we could learn that? And if your child is struggling to come up with some ways, they might, especially in our age of technology, their first thought might be Google or something. And that's definitely a place you can start, but you also might want to encourage some alternate ways of learning. So maybe you might say, and I know this isn't something possible at this moment, but maybe in the future it will be again. I hope so, but you might say, what? Where could we find books about it? I think books are a really good place to start. And your child might say, oh, at the library or at the store. Again, it's not quite possible to go to the library at this moment. So, the internet might be your only place, or maybe you have some books at home, like, even if you have a set of encyclopedias or, some child-friendly books or old, science textbooks from college or high school or something, anything that you can use as a starting point. And even if they're maybe outdated, maybe you have, like my family, we would always get so many secondhand books, and we had like, old textbooks from like the 50s and the 40s, and, they were a good place to start, not to fully reference, because we know that information can be wildly outdated, but, I remember opening up so many books with black and white pictures and reading and not really being satisfied yet, and then I would want to either go to the library and find newer books on the subject, or go online and find out newer information from reputable sources. This is also a good way to teach, sorting out information from misinformation on the internet, because this is such a huge problem with like literally every age demographic online. But there are countless places where you as an adult can train yourself to find that factual and unbiased information. Snopes is a really good place to start. There's PolitiCheck, I believe is what it's called. PolitiFact. And NPR, so, maybe your child finds a website that's full of really, pretty drawings of butterflies and stuff, and it's more based on a doll series or a game or something, and you can say, that's a good fictional representation, but we want to find out about real butterflies, about nonfiction butterflies. So you might go to, National Geographic or the Smithsonian websites. You might go to Discovery. And there are just so many reputable sources online that you can find even child-friendly encyclopedic knowledge. And it really turns into it can really turn into a big investigation. Here in southwestern Michigan, we have the Surrett Nature Center, which has a whole butterfly house, and so many other things that you can discover. And, you might even go and buy a butterfly hatching kit at some point. It launches so many opportunities for discovery and for hands-on experience beyond just asking questions, because really what you want to try and enforce is not the asking and simple answers. That is appropriate in some situations, and there are some questions where there are just simple answers, and that's fine. But for more complex things, for things that you can dig deeper into, it's really worth the effort of digging deeper into them and building that skill which is something they're going to be using a lot in their older school career or as an adult in a job, depending on, you know, what their position might be, what their career might be. And this is how we do our studies in the Tell 'em on Head Start centers, the migrant Head Start centers, because we use the creative curriculum, which are all studies. We do, you know, a study for a month or two, and then, you know, if there's more things that the children want to learn about that topic, then we extend the study. And, you know, it flows and happens so naturally, and it really does follow your child's interests. So I hope this is helpful. I hope that you will be able to help your child to continue to ask questions, continue to seek answers, and build some of those fact-finding skills. Bye.